First, John Nolte, Breitbart News Senior Writer. John, how are you today, sir?
Good morning. I'm good. Thank you. Happy Friday to everyone.
And to you. Soon as, by the way, author of the novel Borrowed Time, which you can buy on Amazon and everywhere, Borrowed Time. As soon as the news that Jon Stewart was coming back to The Daily Show on Mondays, every Monday he'll host, and he's the executive producer the rest of the time, and it's from now, or I think February 12th, until the election. What do we think about Jon Stewart?
He is, I think he's burnt out. Whatever fire he had, during the early Bush years, or during the aughts as they call it, it's just gone now. He's gone. He's sold out his comedy with his show on Apple, which nobody watched and was canceled after 2 seasons. He just turned into this woke tyrant. It's very difficult for me to see him recapturing any kind of the magic that he had. And to be honest, he didn't have much magic, even when he was so-called hot on the Daily Show, because nobody watched. He got maybe 2 million viewers, but the media liked what he had to say. The corporate media would inflate him into a phenomenon, which was totally artificial because no one watched his show. But they would replay his clips because he would bash Bush or fall in love with Obama, and he was useful to the media. So he was very much a media creation. But he's going into this spent. I think he's just spent now, and it's kind of pathetic that he had to slink back like this after failing at HBO and failing as a movie director and failing at Apple TV.
It was a 4-year deal with HBO, right?
Yeah,
and they canceled after 2.
Yeah, never, and he never produced anything. I mean, I should say, he never produced anything that made it to the air. Whatever he produced was obviously so abysmal that HBO didn't want any part of it.
Oh, that's amazing. So when I saw Jon Stewart do well at The Daily Show, whatever well means, as a cultural phenomenon, certainly, whether deserved or not. I think in one of your articles you said he got about 1.3 million viewers and was just crushed by swamp people. Like the show Swamp, not literally crushed by swamp, but the show Swamp People got like 3x the viewers as Jon Stewart. And then goes, HBO gets nothing, and Apple TV like didn't make a mark. And to me, it was like, oh, like really, life and your career is like about timing and just where you happen to be. Because like, why would what he did work at Comedy Central, but not work over on Apple TV? It was a similar shtick, standing behind a desk doing his thing. Why did it work one place and not work another?
It worked at Comedy Central because merit isn't necessary at Comedy Central to succeed. Apple TV survives on subscribers. HBO survives on subscribers. You have to want to watch Apple TV, and you have to want to watch HBO for either of those networks to make any money, or not networks, but the streaming service or the network to make any money. That's merit-based. Comedy Central is part of everyone's cable package. So if you subscribe to cable TV, if you're someone who is still subscribing to cable or satellite TV, Comedy Central is part of your package. Nobody watches Comedy Central. The ratings for The Daily Show are down to about 350,000 now. But because you're subscribing to cable TV, Comedy Central, all these left-wing networks, MSNBC, CNN, ESPN, they get a huge chunk of your bill. That's why your cable bill is so high. So if 60 million people are subscribing to cable, and just say $2 a month of your $150 bill is going to Comedy Central, I don't know exactly what it is. They're making $120 million a month, which is $2, which is a reasonable assumption. That has nothing to do with merit, because Comedy Central does not survive, neither does CNN, on merit, which would be advertising dollars based on viewership. And that's how these fake networks, these very unpopular and disregarded and loathed networks stay in business. It's the cable TV racket.
What was it about Jon Stewart and his shtick that appealed to the elites, that appealed to the cultural influences of our country that would push out his clips and mock conservatives like he did?
Well, he's not untalented. No one can say that. And I remember him doing his thing on the Larry Sanders show. He was just brilliant on the Larry Sanders show. But as a comedian, he served the elite. He served the establishment. They hated Bush. He hated Bush. They hated Cheney. He hated Cheney. So he could develop these monologues and tell us this is comedy, and that allowed the media. You would see him on CNN all the time. They would play a clip, and they would say, "Oh, here's some fun comedy." They would pretend it was comedy when it wasn't. It was propaganda, and that was how he served them.
Yeah, I think I would say that of the people who lamented the division in our country, I think Jon Stewart.
I'm sorry, you went out there for just a second. I apologize. Hello? Did I lose you? I can hear you now. No problem. No problem.
People lament the division in our country. So do I. I think one of the major causes of that was Jon Stewart. Is
Definitely.
that overselling it?
No, not at all. Stewart is one of the people who created the us against them mentality, the we're good, you're stupid mentality.
Yes.
And he blossomed hundreds of Jon Stewarts, Samantha Bee, Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon. They all take that same approach where you and I are crazy or we're stupid or we're racist, and everyone else is virtuous. And that was the line that he created. And then in the news media, that's what the news media turned into. Everybody wanted to be Jon Stewart. Yes. And you see it on CNN, you see it with Jake Tapper, you see it with Wolf Blitzer, you see it with Rachel Maddow and that crew. And that mentality just took over popular culture. And the news media today is just part of popular culture, the corporate media.
I don't remember much of college, but I distinctly remember a seminar I was in with Stephen Brill was the professor. He's the founder of Court TV. So it's a seminar, so there were like 12 of us or something. And the girl next to me, I distinctly remember this. There's very few like college moments I distinctly remember. This is one of them. And she proudly, triumphantly stated, "I get my news from The Daily Show."
Right.
And this was right in the midst of, it would have been 2005 or so, right? Like in his heyday. It's like, what? What do you mean?
And that was true for, you would talk to young people, and those that did get their news, they would get it from The Daily Show. And he would just feed them virtue. You're virtuous if you agree with me. You're smart if you agree with me. You're sophisticated if you agree with me. And he was, basically molding these young minds. And I've no doubt that that's part of the issue we're dealing with today with these idiotic millennials that are out protesting against Israel. They side with Hamas, but if you ask them any deep questions, they can't answer them. When I started taking on Jon Stewart at Breitbart, a lot of people on our side liked him because they just thought he was funny, and he was funny. There's no question about that. Yeah. But I just saw right through him. And I remember that, Jon Stewart's whole shtick was, I want to stop division. And then Glenn Beck did this thing where he went to and this is at the height of Glenn Beck's powers, he went to the National Mall and he hosted a very popular program that thousands and thousands of people showed up to, where he just talked about what's great about America and the founding principles, that he had people there from all walks of life. And it was apolitical. It wasn't at all partisan. Beck really handled that well. And then Jon Stewart mocked that, and he put on his own program, took at the same spot in D.C. at the mall that Glenn Beck did, and he just ridiculed it. And that's when I saw through Jon Stewart. That's when I knew the guy was a phony.
You're right. It was Glenn Beck's rally to restore honor, and Jon Stewart had the rally to restore sanity and or
That's
fear.
Right. Exactly. That's when I knew Jon Stewart was an absolute phony and a partisan. And I never looked back after that because he exposed himself, because Glenn Beck did nothing partisan, did nothing wrong. If Jon Stewart was who he said he was, he would have appreciated what Beck did.
Maybe would have gone there, spoke to it. Great point. And then the guise of, I'm just a comedian. He always falls back behind that one. So see through that. That's not what he is.